Hi everybody, welcome along to the Daily Debrief. It's good that you found the internet, because that's where we do things, of course. NATO here, and look, we've got multi-screens happening tonight on the show for May the 8th. So this is May the 8th when you come to it in history. 3 of these people are in the same neighbourhood, but who? Is it who or whom? Whom? Maybe one of those ones as well. Just very quickly before I introduce our guests for Fancy Friday that we've got, May the 8th, you know why it's a good day today, eh, guys?
Of course we do. Of course we do.
Because the theme song from Welcome Back, Kotter went to #1 on this day in 1976. So there you go.
Oh,
that's,
wow.
Yeah, that's the massive...
I was going to say 75 years since VE Day in Europe.
Oh, yes. Yeah, bit of that as well.
I can see how that's also a cool day.
It is. Well, as you know, Blake's always live coming out of Tamworth because he's right in the hornet's nest of the NRL with the Warriors. He's in lockdown inside his giant bubble. But tonight, these 2 guys I saw on the internet the other day doing this really amazing sort of sketch that they'd done together that I think were filmed on multiple phones in different cars, but it looked like the one car. It could have been a different city. I don't know. But Sam Neill and Oscar Kightley are with us tonight. So, guys, good to have you here.
Not clapping too loud. Not clapping too loud.
Yeah, not clapping too loud. Os, mate, how's lockdown going? You've been in parts of New Zealand, different parts of New Zealand.
I have. I was in Christchurch because I went down there to quarantine myself, and then the lockdown started. So I ended up being there for level 4, and I was quite depressed and quite down and anxious. And Sam kept annoying me with his request to do a video of these films, because Sam's social media game is like next level.
It is.
And he's been making these bloody films, and I was like, but actually he kind of forced me and made me do it, and that actually really cheered me up. So yeah, I'm now relocated to Te Atatu, West Auckland, and I'm actually feeling okay as we see whether we move to level 2. I think most of the country's done really awesome. So yes, I'm staying positive, but yeah, Sam's annoying bloody videos. With this video though, he's really raised the bar. I'm not sure he will ever top it.
Well, Sam, it's good to have you with us. So yeah, I imagine that you've been. Is this where you've been for the whole time here? I have seen your videos with your beloved pigs. We need to talk about your pigs soon and stuff too. No, do we call them pigs or are they hogs? What's the proper word?
I'm just down the road from Tamworth. I'm in Sydney, and I can't. Ideally, I'd like to be on the farm, but I was working in North Africa, in Marrakesh, and then it looked like I really needed to get the hell out of there. So we wrapped. I was on a plane. I was supposed to stay in London to, oh my goodness, someone's breaking into my apartment, and who is it? It's my girlfriend.
Hey,
it could have been someone with a big knife.
Okay, I thought that was going to be an internet scary moment there.
That would have been a great internet moment for us though, Sam. Sorry to be selfish.
But that's why you ended up in Sydney. That's why you're like, I'll stay here. Yeah.
So it's been, and it hasn't been nearly as rigorous, in all fairness, as New Zealand. And as Oscar says, I think New Zealand's done an absolutely awesome job. It's quite amazing to see how that's been achieved, and it's been tough on so many people. But my view is that it's going to really pay off big time, because if we become the first COVID-free country in the world, the opportunities that lends itself. For instance, if you were going to do a big movie like, I don't know, you want to do Star Wars? Try doing Star Wars in Los Angeles or New York, and you're presented with an absolute mountain of difficulties. Not, just going to makeup. I mean, just simple stuff like that. But imagine being able to make a film in the normal circumstances, like playing footy, and where you actually don't have to social distance. it makes complete sense that having gone through the tough stuff, we'll be able to do things that no one else will be able to do. So I really applaud the government, and I applaud the people of Aotearoa, because I think that it's been an amazing accomplishment. And let's hope that nothing goes wrong in between here and grade 1 or whatever the ultimate is.
Whatever it is. So you what were you doing in North Africa? Are we allowed to know the project, or was that very under wraps?
Well, that was it was untitled. It was for Apple, and it involved aliens and I don't know, spaceships, and it was alien stuff. So scary. But I should be now, as we speak, actually working in Pinewood out of London, and they built all these sets for Jurassic 6, and that's all in kind of hibernation. So everything's mothballed, and we're just kind of waiting until the good times return.
Sam, your movie career is not too dissimilar to mine. I once got an audition for a film that was called, I think it was like Passion of the Christ. No, it wasn't that one. It was like some New Zealand film. And I had to grow a beard, and I had to grow my hair long, and I had dreadlocks. And I got a part as an extra. So yeah, very similar careers. And then they had to pull pin on the movie because they ran out of budget. And I just got my costume or outfit or whatever you'd call it. And it was like kind of rags. So I was guessing I was kind of like the lower end bum of the street variety with long hair. So I kind of feel that pain, you're partway through a project and it gets ripped out from underneath you, but you'll bounce back. Look at me.
Exactly. Yeah.
Hey, we're on our Fridays. One of our missions that we've been trying to do is because we talk a lot of sport and pop culture during Monday to Thursday, but we thought, well, how's a way we can expand our brains and get into this? And I wanted to know from you, because you write, you act, you do all that stuff. I've seen you when you get that look in your eye and you go, got a pen, bro, and then next thing, Oscar's disappeared for a bit and he's just writing and does stuff like that. Was it love of words that got you into that, and how did that all happen?
I think it was love of escaping reality, and it manifested itself by reading, because reading books was more fun than what was happening in real life, and so you tend to just throw yourself into that, and then you develop this love of stories, and I loved how books used to make me feel. So I thought, maybe I could be a writer and do that for other people, whether it be readers or audience. Or
what were those seminal books?
The classics, actually. Homer, the Iliad.
Wow.
I know this sounds like Oscar just being wanky, but it was actually.
In fact, I have the entire verse tattooed on my person.
Just all the classics, Dickens, all that stuff. It was all the stuff that teachers read to us at school, and that just got me into stories.
Ross, when you start a project, do you have somewhere where you'd like it to go? Because this is just stay with me here. So Broadtown, I'm raised in Australia, born in Australia, and it got over there, and then you had like white kids like me, like Jeff the Māori, and did you just make it, just for New Zealand, but then obviously it branches out and touches everywhere? Do you have a specific place where you want to touch at each project?
Yeah, absolutely, because the stuff that touched us was stuff like was real old stuff like the Cosby Kids, Fat Albert and the Cosby Kids, and even weird stuff from England, really weird random stuff like Basil Brush and Rainbow and the Goodies. And when you're a little kid growing up in this part of the world, as you know, Blake, that seems like such a long way away. So being inspired by that, we were always like, we want to make this for kids like us around the world, people who were kids like us.
Can you feel, Sam, when you pick up a script and you have a look at something, obviously when someone's written it, they've poured some sort of feeling in it. Like when I read words, they just look like words to me. How do they become feelings for you?
I have one rule for reading scripts, and it's and I only go wrong when I forget that rule. If I'm reading the script and I go, I really want to keep reading this. This is really good.
Yeah.
But if I go, I really like a cup of tea or a glass of wine or something, and what's on social media? What's Oscar been up to? There's something wrong with the storytelling. But that, as a rule of thumb, if it's talking directly to you, if the part kind of resonates with you, and it's not always, it's ideally the part should go to you, should say, you know what, this is probably more difficult than you can do. So actually, that's probably a good reason to do it. See if you can actually, if it's something you can do standing on your ear, then you've done it before. So if it's something that looks really difficult, that's another reason to sort of go, yeah, I think I might think about this.
Os, could you get Brotown made today?
Yep.
Could you? You reckon? Because that's always one of the things people go, oh, gosh, I don't know if you could get that made today in these 2020 times.
We probably can't be as full on as we were back then.
Do you have to take out the can't face ones?
You have to take out what is it? You can't face Mac.
What is it? You can't face Mac. Yeah. How many seasons did you get away with that before the censor realised it was there?
Oh, I know.
Every episode for how many? Oscar Kightley, how many was it?
It was just the funnest joke to try and get that line in. And we got it through. So really like, what is it? You can't face Jeff. So funny.
Wait, how do you use to like? How do you use to not laugh? Like, how many takes does it take? Because honestly, like in all the movies you've done, there's so much laughter. Do you just like look at each other and just start laughing straight away, or is there a sense of professionalism or something? I don't know. Because I'm sitting here laughing with you two. Is it just like heaps of takes?
Just being around? Yeah. How do you switch it off? Like when you're doing Harry, right? Because Harry was some quite heavy, I guess, serious subject matter.
Wow.
What about for that? How do you go? How did he go, Sam? What was it like looking at my mate Oscar? Did he serious up?
Hang on, I just need some hydrating mist. As we discuss that memory.
I'll tell you how I first met Oscar. Do you remember this, Oscar? Do you remember how we met?
Oh yes. Yes.
We don't. How?
No. What did he do?
No, I wrote Oscar a fan letter because I'd seen Sione's wedding, and I wrote to him and said, I think this is really good, and you're really good, and it was a real sort of suck up letter. And that's how I got a part in Brotown, and that was my big break. You know, so it pays to suck up for people once in a while.
I thought you were going to tell them, Stam, I thought you were going to tell them their stories. So I'm doing this talk in Wanaka, and I'd never really spent much time in that part of the country before, so I don't really know distances between places. And Sam was a very lovely guy. He was like, oh, I live in Queenstown. I'll come and hear you speak. It was at this thing called the Wanaka Festival of Lights. And I remember thinking, wow, this guy's been a hero for so long. And then he was like, oh, why don't you come over to my place in Queenstown? I was like, yeah, that's awesome. Thinking Queenstown like a suburb. We were driving. And I'm sitting next, like freaking out, not knowing what to say, and thinking, fuck, this drive's taking ages. And so I was like, shit, I'm going to have to talk. Going to have to like say some stuff. And I was like, at the time, Sam had been doing this character in a show called The Tudors. He played this, the Cardinal, real cool show. And I was like, oh, I love you in that show, but I hadn't actually watched it. And I was just like having to just talk. And he was like, oh, thanks very much, driving along. And I was like, so what is happening to your character in the second series? And he was so classy and nice. He just stopped and kind of just looked and he went, "My character died." And the rest of the drive was quite quiet. And I'm just going, "You idiot. You're such a fool."
Does part of your brain go to, maybe I should have gone? Yes, it was a great death too. Amazing.
I should have riffed on it. I was like, yeah, that was amazing.
Yeah, you could do a whole second season of you dead.
Oh, it's been done before. It's been done
Yeah, it's
before.
been
I
done.
mean, Game of Thrones, they seem to bring everyone back from time to time.
Yeah.
Sam, I'm interested in when you started out acting and to where you are now. What's kind of the biggest differences that you have noticed in terms of even like the amount of scripts that you have to read through or turn up at your front door, or what sort of differences are there from the start to where you are now?
Well, the main difference is being a New Zealander. You know, when I was a kid in Dunedin, I loved going to the movies, but the movies were always from England or America. And so the idea that we could make movies in New Zealand or television even, they read the news with sort of faux British accents, you know, "Good evening, this is the news." But apart from that, there was sort of nothing from New Zealand. I think Country Calendar might have started when I was a kid, but that was about it. But we never saw ourselves on the screen. We never saw New Zealand stories. And there were certainly no New Zealand movies to be seen at the movies. So that's the major sort of big change for me is that we are now telling our own stories in a way that we just sort of take for granted, but it was unthinkable when I was a kid.
That's cool.
What
And
about,
we got just a couple of people who are written. They really want to know. They're watching the stream at the moment. They really want to know what you're drinking, Sam.
Oh, well, I am of course drinking some of my own wine.
There it is.
And you can all be really green with jealousy because I'm enjoying it immensely. Yeah.
I love it.
Hey Sam, I watched that. If you're listening, there's a really cool story on Sam that ABC story did, and it's on YouTube. This type ABC story and Sam Neill, and I watched it, and there's a bit in the paddock where you're with your winemaker, and he gets that big long spoon and dips it into the barrel, and then takes out like the first drop of the season or whatever it was. It was like something real special. What does it taste like when it's that? Or is that quite yuck? Or is that like the best it's ever going to get?
No, you sort of have to make allowances because, you know, every barrel is different. That's what's so wonderful about winemaking, is that every barrel is different. Every season is different. We've actually had quite a challenging year this year. For instance, I was then looking at last year's wines, the 2019s, which are going to be fantastic. We haven't released any of them yet, but every barrel you're looking at something that came from a particular place. You know, that barrel would have come from the top part of the Last Chance vineyard, which, you know, that particular clone really sort of shone that year. And you're nearly asleep, aren't you, Oscar? I can tell it. There's nothing so boring.
I'm like, can you drink it and go, "Oh, that was that really horrible rain we had in March," and that was when the soil was really stressed out. Like, can you really taste all that stuff in a glass of wine, Sam? Is that what you're trying to convince us?
You can taste lots of things, but usually it's very raw and young, and that's why wine needs aging, because it mellows and it develops complexities, but you can see potentials, I remember tasting that barrel thinking this is pretty fantastic. Yeah. There's nothing so boring as a wine bore, and I'm going to talk about sport now.
Have you met a craft
yeah.
beer? What about a craft beer bore? They're pretty good.
Yeah, they're
Oh,
Yeah,
man.
because they'll give you
Craft beer.
17 different ones on the same piece of wood that they slide over to you. And they're like, this tastes like, and it's like Ped and I trying them in Brisbane, trying to make sophisticated, go, no, this tastes really fucking bitter. And
Yeah.
then the other one, it's just always, doesn't matter. What, thank you. And then those sour ones, they were good, eh?
Yeah, the sour ones were the only saving grace, but the bitter ones,
they were.
they would bring out more and more, and they'd be like, oh, your super tasters. Okay, we'll bring out less bitter ones. You'd be like, nope, still, yep, no, just.
Because you feel like a dick, eh? Like you want to sit there and be sophisticated because everyone else is going, oh, and they're nodding, and I'm you know, I like Pepsi.
Yeah, I love the vocabulary that's developed around craft beer, but I always kind of lose interest at that's $14 for a glass,
Yeah.
and then it's like I don't care what words flow around that 14. It just stops there for me.
Would
I'm
you
like, this
be?
is-
Would you be Oscar?
To be honest, well, I have to kind of give myself up, but I like that IPA stuff but only because it's the strongest.
Gets the job done the quickest, eh?
It's the job done.
I've got a beer in the fridge. I'll just get it
Yeah,
out.
okay.
There you
Yes,
go.
I love when people go and get ones. This is good. This is good. Boss, this is a great feature. We've had someone go off and come back with their own NBA card. We've had someone come back with their own New York Jets football helmet. Is what else we've had as well. We've had
Jimmy
plenty.
Neesham took us around his lounge, showed us his Michael Jordan signed poster.
Yeah, it's Michael Jordan.
Hawks Lager.
I only had that beer in my
Hawks,
fridge because somebody gave it to me.
Is that you on it?
Is that Bob Hawke?
That's
Oh,
Bob
Jesus.
Hawke.
It's Bob Hawke,
Wow.
Yeah.
Oi.
who used to drink, a pint or an enormous glass at the cricket. It was traditional. And now they've made a beer for him. I think it's a sort of craft beer of some kind. It's 4.5%. That's quite strong, isn't it? I think.
That's
Anyway,
Yeah.
he's memorialized.
On a can of beer.
I met Bob Hawke once, and I thought he was one of the most unpleasant people I've ever met. But there he is.
Oh.
Wow. Really?
Really?
He's
was
in
he?
my
Why? Was
fridge.
he
And
Aussie
crying?
Bob?
He can stay in my fridge. cold.
Oh, dear.
I want to hear
Hey,
more about the pigs.
Yeah,
Or the,
yeah,
yes.
I do want to find out about these because quite often, for those of you watching, if you don't know, when you take to Twitter, quite often Sam films tons of videos with his beloved pigs, pigs, hogs. What do we call them? What do you take us through your faves?
Well, my favorite is a boy pig called Angelica, who's got a kind of embarrassing name because he was owned by a little girl. He's a rescue pig.
Yeah.
And he is the size of about 3 warrior forwards combined in one pig at the moment. Because,
Wow.
You did say it speaks sport. That's good.
yeah, that's right. He's been eating all the fruit that's dropped off the trees. We've got 50 pear trees with little pears that aren't very good, but he loves them, and he's just absolutely enormous. I did have a pig called Taika, but Taika has gone to friends in Oamaru.
Right.
Ooh.
Like
Is that
actually, or
code?
friends
Yeah.
to
Is that
Oamaru?
code
Yeah.
for something
Gone to
bad?
friends in Oamaru.
Okay, he's gone to yes, with you now. Right.
Mm.
That's. I
Oh,
thought the rule
no.
was you can't name. Was that it? Paired? Was that the rule in Gisborne? That,
Yeah,
like
well-
the pet lambs, if you've named them.
Yeah.
My dad
you
gave
got
up on that strategy very long, like pretty quickly into it because wasn't long before some of our pet lambs were on our table in front of us, and we questioned him. He just it was time to learn the truth. Kids, sit there and learn the truth. You're eating your pet lamb. Again, I've turned out all right, Sam. I've turned out all right. I'd like to think, even with those harsh truths. But
Oh, that's terrible.
That's all right.
you learn pretty quickly that's the cycle of life. That's what Dad used to call it, the cycle of life.
Yeah.
That was before the Lion King and the Circle of Life came in.
Hey, now we actually have a challenge that we wanted to do, and this. So normally, what we do is we have a quiz and we have sports people on. And currently, the game is Are You Smarter Than a Warrior? Because Blake Green is our overall champion. He defeated, I think, Aaron Smith was leading at that point. But part of it has become, it's sort of taken on a life of its own, and it's Blake's movie impersonations that he does. So we're going to do. So we've got 3 of them here. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to do Sam, Mark, Blake, and myself. We're all going to try and do one of your characters for you. We're going to see if you can pick who it is. Okay. Now, Oscar, at the end of it, you decide who did the best one, and that person gets.
Okay.
Who gets the Oscar?
11, yes, gets an Oscar. There you go, $11,000. There you go. So, who wants to go first? Blake, you up first? Yeah, Blake's
I guess
first.
so. I guess so.
Okay, so
As
here we go.
I've
Hang
been
on. I'll
doing
give you
it.
some lead-in music.
Can't wait.
Here we go. Wait, hang on.
Wait. I've got to say something. Me and this fat kid, we ran, we ate, and read books. And it was the best.
Wow.
I sort of had an American accent. I don't know where that came from. Just when the camera came on, just went American. I know you know what American
It's a
said.
very high bar.
Yeah.
It's a very high bar.
Just went American accent. I don't know.
Tell us about
Very
that
high
character, Sam. Maybe we are.
Yeah, it's just based on myself and Barry Crump. I was once in the same room as Barry Crump. He was drunk, and it was in the theatre, and Barry used to shoot deer. You know, he was one of those kind of solitary New Zealand characters that was either drunk in a pub, making a nuisance of himself, or he'd be alone for weeks on end in the West Coast bush shooting deer. But he came to see End of the Golden Weather, and I was a kid, you know, at school. We were sent to see End of the Golden Weather. Bruce Mason was performing this, and Bruce had this very kind of fruity voice like this, Takapuna Beach.
Sure.
And there was a particular part. This man started shouting in the back, and started shouting the same words that Bruce Mason was declaiming on the stage in Christchurch, and we were all sort of mortified as an audience, about 200 or 300 people. There was a drunk shouting man, but in a later edition, I read Bruce talking about this, meeting Barry Crump, and Barry Crump had been. This is the power of words. It's the power of stories. This is before Barry had started writing anything. He'd been living in a hut somewhere on the West Coast, and in the hut was a wind-up gramophone, you know, with 78s, and there was a recording of End of the Golden Weather, one of those great seminal New Zealand stories, read by Bruce Mason, and Barry would play this incessantly at night because there's nothing much to do in a hut at night with one candle and a wind-up. And he played it hundreds and hundreds of times, so he knew it off by heart. And he had a favorite part that just spoke to him. And whenever Bruce got to this bit, because Bruce would say, "I shall go back to the top of the page," and then he'd get to the bit where something in drunk Barry would be triggered, and he'd start shouting again. For 3 times this happened. But afterwards, Barry would sober it up a bit. He went back to see Bruce backstage and said, "I'm really sorry, mate, but that's the most beautiful thing I ever heard." And after that, he started writing these famous books, including the thing that eventually became The Wilder People, which I think was called Watercress, Wild
Pork and Watercress.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Okay, hang on, wait. Here we go. So this is number 2.
What did I get out of 10?
What did he get out of 10 for that? Because Blake got scores there.
I just want to say that it's a very high bar, so I want to see all three before we start handing out the marks.
Oh, you're like
okay,
a
yeah.
boxing judge.
Yeah, I like
okay,
that.
cool. All right. Okay.
Love it.
All right. So here's number 2. Well done. So I'll do number 2. Okay. Here, wait. Spin. Okay, ready? Bang! I would like to have seen Montana.
You're thinking away.
Oh, wow.
That's so good.
Wow.
Oh, no.
I love that movie. I love it. To
How
death.
many times you practice that? That's awesome.
I'm in my head about a zillion times whenever I see Montana. I used to see it on maps and do that. I would like to see Montana. I love that. And he yapping on about Montana and his round American wife and stuff. Sam, that
Wow.
was. Can you recognise that character?
Definitely, but here's the interesting thing, is that you did it with a better Russian accent than me. Because when we were doing that film, that there was an American submarine with Americans on it, and they were all Americans.
Yes.
And then there was our boat with me and Sean Connery, and Sean never changes his accent. He can't do accents. And then there was a whole bunch. Some of them there were some Russians on board and things like that. But I started to do a Russian accent, and then the word came down from the head of the studio, we're not going to do accents. Just speak in your own voice. And I thought, look, I'm from Dunedin. I'm second in command of a Russian submarine. It would be absurd to sound like I'm from Dunedin. It's ridiculous. So I sort of sneaked a bit of Russian accent, but it wasn't nearly as good as yours. That was fantastic.
That was really good.
Because I'm all like, oh, shut up and shut. I'm not going to see Montana. There you go.
Yeah, that was
That's
good.
Captain from Dunedin. All right, so there you go. See,
NATO,
you're
I'm,
right.
so happy,
Thank you.
I'm so happy I went before you, NATO, and now
Yeah, that sucks.
Follow that. That's
In my head.
Okay, I see. You
all right,
scored it. Okay, are you ready?
I got to take my
You gotta
punishing
take your
headphones off. So yeah, play the music so
Okay,
I know where to go.
Oh, okay, right. Here we go. So number 3, here it comes.
Oh,
Oh,
he
he's
hasn't.
bought
He
pops.
hasn't. That sucks.
Huh?
No,
Wow.
I don't get it.
Sam, I'm not
He
gonna
doesn't
lie. It's really hard to try and be one of the characters as well as you have played before in the histories of time, but it's even harder to do it when you don't have any words to use. Like I wanted to go, fuck. Look at the size of that thing. Shit. But I wanted to sort of stay in the character that you played, and I feel like I let the whole team down, and I apologise for that.
It was a good attempt, but and you're right. It's hard to do because there wasn't really anything for me to see either on the day. There was a guy with a big pole with a tennis ball at the end, and Spielberg said, "Just keep your eye on the tennis ball, and you'll be fine." Yeah,
I was
it wasn't,
missing the tennis ball. That's where I went horribly wrong.
Yeah, you didn't fall. So, but they do that. So they basically go in there and just pretend it's the most interesting, astounding tennis ball you've ever seen in your life.
Absolutely.
Do you picture the dinosaur or what? Is it just this is my job? It's what I do. I make it look like I'm seeing one.
No, I'm thinking, I hope I'm not looking like a complete idiot, I'm feeling like I've got a prawn face on, but let's hope I'm getting away with this shit.
Okay, well there we go. So it's time now for the judging. So we've got.
All right, well, can I just say that there are 3 very high standard entries. I feel like Mark did cheat and went beyond the spirit of the exercise by using props.
Yes.
That wasn't in the rules. Okay, I'll take that though.
I have to discount that, which leaves Nathan and Blake. You both chose very seminal parts of the said movie. Nathan, with you, it was the captain's last line before he
Yes,
died.
Captain Borodin and Hunt for Red October.
Spoiler alert! And with
Oh,
Blake,
yeah,
it was the height. It was that moment in Will to People when you finally got Herc melting his icy interior and showing that he had been affected by his friendship with Ricky. Nathan, I think I'm going to give it to Blake because of his absolute commitment, but also your accent did end up really good as Russian, but also I heard Tony Montana in there at the beginning. And I just feel like the pause might have just stuck you up there. So I'm going to have to give that one to Blake.
Oh, thanks.
Well done, Blake.
So it looks like then I stay impersonator.
Yeah, you are. Yeah, you're the guy. You stay being our movie guy.
You're alpha.
I don't know if that's a good thing or not. We'll see how it goes.
You're the alpha impersonator.
Oz, tell us what were you doing in Hawaii? So it's quite cool. Like sometimes I'll message, I'll be like, "Oh, bro, where are you? I'm in Hawaii." Oh, okay. See, I won't come around and see you. And thanks for telling me you're in Hawaii. What is that about? What are the residency? What do you do?
Oh man, so that was a Fulbright scholarship that I got. It was for 3 months. I got to go to base myself at the University of Hawaii and work on a project of my choosing. But unfortunately, because of this virus, I had to come back after 2 months. So that was cut short. My scholarship, my brief time as an academic.
What were you working on?
Well, I want to do a project about the Samoan community in America, and when you start looking at the research, there's two kind of places that they feature quite disproportionately given their size of their population. One is football. At the recent NFL draft, 29 Polynesian players ended up with teams after the draft, and then after all the free agents were signed. So that's huge, but also in the military. So I was with this project, I was researching Samoans in the military as something I want to do, as I kind of, I don't know, look to make, because I thought, well, if I'm going to be in Hawaii, it'd be crazy to research a project set in New Zealand. So Hawaii was a good place for that project.
How many Samoan people would be in America?
They get most of their population from American Samoa, which is a U.S. territory, and that's a population of 60,000. But they reckon there's about 50 or 60,000 on the mainland United States as well, and that's not even including the population in Hawaii. So, given how small the population is, it's crazy that they even feature in the American consciousness. But thanks to people like Dwayne The Rock. So it's a good time to, the Booyah tribe. So it's a cool time to be a storyteller with a different kind of perspective.
Yeah.
So true. Hey Sam, do you ever have do you ever revisit or want to revisit a character that the movie's finished with? And as in, like, would you like another ride with one of those characters if they were to do a sequel or anything like that? Is there someone a character that sticks in your mind that you're like, man, I really enjoyed that time. I wish they would make a sequel.
They're all dead. Those characters. They all died for one reason or another. I can't bring them back.
Good at dying.
Oscar, I know how you feel now. I can't say I've seen every movie, so I was unawares that they all died. I mean, you get plenty of rides with Jurassic Park though. That's been a hoot. Can I just say it is the one movie I've watched. The original was the one movie I've watched more than any other movie in this time in my life. I just was so blown away. But loved dinosaurs as a young fella, and then when that came out, I was like, "Whoa, man! I've got to see that again," and just loved it.
That is a cool premise, though, right? When that comes across your desk, they go, "We've got this thing. It's about this island, and this guy's splicing DNA, and there's dinosaurs, and they're running around." That's got to be an exciting. I would be excited by that. What did you think when you first heard about it?
Look, it wasn't really the dinosaur thing that I thought was exciting. It was Steven Spielberg. I thought if Steven Spielberg's doing something, it's got to be great. You know, it's got to be, especially if it's Steven Spielberg and science fiction. You know. But that a friend of mine sent me a photo of himself, which is slightly current at the moment, but applies equally to Jurassic Park. The T-shirt said, every disaster movie starts with a scientist warning, something like that. You know,
Yeah.
and I thought, yeah, that's a little up to date. And by the way, those are the only people I want to listen to at the moment. I don't want to listen to any, apart from Jacinda. I don't want to listen to any politicians, particularly ones with agendas talking about what's going on. But I do want to listen to doctors, and I do want to listen to scientists. These are the only people that make any sense to me at the moment.
Can I just say, guys, of the incredible production value and culture gas points you guys, this show gets tonight from having Sam in terms of the names he's been able to drop. That is,
I'm going to get you, Oscar Kightley.
That is some major points there. We've had Steven Spielberg.
Yeah.
And then from his anecdote as a child, we have two other New Zealand icons, Barry Trump and Bruce Mason. So I think we've covered everything here from the historic right up to today's popular culture. Well done, Sam.
Hey, I was talking about celebrities. Moana, The Rock.
Oh,
Yeah,
How was
man.
it? How was it?
that
man?
would be the film. Are you referring to the Disney epic that I did with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson?
Yes, we are.
That'd be the one.
Like, do they do that when you're in Hawaii? You go in the shops and go, "Hey, I know that voice. It's a guy from Moana."
Man. I was so excited to. No, they don't. Like, no one believe you kind of blink and you miss his character. I was so excited to get the part, thinking, "Oh wow, I get to go to a studio in LA." Instead, I went to LA's place in the bottom of Auckland, of Kightley. And I spent an hour doing my lines, and I had 5 lines. And I think I only had 5 lines, and they took it out. But you can see all the directors from a camera in LA. And I was really trying really hard not to do him like a fob. I was trying to make him really sophisticated, really refined. And you know, finally I was getting tired, and they went, "Can you just do it like how you did it in the audition?" You know, and so I did that, and that's the one they ended up using.
Did you get to meet him? Did you get to meet The Rock at all in any of the premieres?
No, not. I haven't.
Come on,
I
that
haven't
film
met
with you.
The Rock. I know. I'm the fisherman. I'm the one that tells Moana that all the fish are gone, so therefore that's why she has to go all the way to Tahiti with you.
Yeah. I'm fisherman one, mate.
I'm fisherman one.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that was cool. That was a buzz. Just, you know, when I took my little niece and nephew to it, I was like, yeah, that's Uncle's voice. And that was really quite special for them, and I think quite life changing when they look back at their lives.
Yeah. Well, I remember that day. We stayed to watch the credits just so we could clap. There's Oscar. It's cool, man. You got it. Far out. So Sam, you will get through lockdown and then come back home and then hope that they bring the project over here instead. This North African film, they could film it here.
Yeah, I mean, that would make total sense. I just wanted to tell one premiere story. I was just reminded.
Oh, please.
Yes.
Just because I told a rock story.
I don't know. Blake will ask you a good night out story soon. So you're right. You still got a good story.
I took my nephew to a Toroa to the premiere of Jurassic Park in, I think, 93 or 94 or something like that. And he was, I don't know, 10 years old maybe. And afterwards, well, the next day, I went round to my brother's place and I said, how did you enjoy how was the night? He said, "Oh, it was really good." I said, what was good about the night? He said, "You know, there were 3 or 4 people from Shortland Street there." That was the best thing for him. Oh my God! I thought it really made a success with nephews, you know. But no.
That's incredible.
Oh, man.
Right, Blake,
No,
you
Nate,
can...
Aysh?
Yeah, Nate, you are right.
Yeah.
Be rude of me not to ask you two gents, both of you, you know, everyone that comes on. I'd like to know where the best place they've been in the world to have a beer, have a wine, whiskey, anything. And is there any stories from that occasion?
Any best epic stories?
Oh,
We did.
We've got to hand over the
That's
face.
the face. That's the face we were after,
No, he's
Oscar.
going through. He's editing. No, not that one.
Yeah, not that
Not that
one.
No, no one.
We're recording. Can't tell that one.
I can't. You can't, because this is online and it's there forever. It's there for the whole. You know, it's going to be around as long as this damn virus.
We had Nano Girl who had partied with Richard Branson on his island. Like, we were talking about going to Vegas and hanging out, and Nano Girl was like, "Oh yeah, so I had a massive night with Richard Branson, and then we went kite surfing together the next morning on his private island." We're like,
Wow.
"Oh wow!"
Yeah, we were like, "Great, that's ruined everyone's stories from now on. Thanks."
Yeah, hey, we don't know. Is there any lads? Something.
Yeah, beaten by a scientist. But because I mean, God, fancy nights out, fancy openings. Sam, you must have been to some bloody good ones.
Yeah, Sam.
Yeah.
You must have some. I mean, Sam's like friends with like all of them. All the stars.
Don't let him beat you on this, Oscar. Don't let him beat you. You've got a good story, I can tell.
Good, really.
No, I'm just. Oh, that's right. Let's sit in a more comfortable chair now. I'm going to assume the comatose position like Oscar. I don't think I've been to many premieres.
Or like any place, any country where you're like, wow, this is a place to have a beer, or you know.
Oh, you know what? That's, you know, that last job I did, which was in Marrakesh, and I'd never been to Morocco before, but we were, that last night before we had to pull stumps, that's a sports reference,
Like that.
and get the hell out of there. We were on the rooftop of Marrakesh. Marrakesh is, the whole city is no more than 3 or 4 stories high, with the odd mosque, you know, sticking out of the skyline. And then this moon, apparently there's a huge moon tonight, just come up here. And it was one of those moons that just sort of came up behind this mosque. And I thought, this is you know, this is one of those things you never forget. The thing was, it seemed like the size of, you know, the size of Australia, but then you always take a photo of the moon, you know, and you think that is the biggest thing I've ever seen. And it's just like a tiny dot, you know, like a little pimple on the skyline. But that was a magic moment. I hardly ever drink beer, but I did drink beer up there. It was beautiful.
What an animal! What an animal! The moon came out, and you were like, "Let's get some beers on this. This is huge." You guys, I think what you're missing here is the real treat from Blake Ayshford's story. That's the reason why he wants to know about other people's drinking episodes and getting shit hammered and hurting themselves. Is Blake, tell them about Vegas and the score with you in Vegas.
All right, if I have to. So obviously, I went to Vegas the first time with a couple of lads and crushed it. Like, out of my mind, pool parties by day, nightclub by night.
Yes.
Lived a lot. I was 21. I went back as a 22-year-old veteran the second year. And after the first night, we were still up dancing in the room. And for some reason, all the doors were closed. And I just started moonwalking. For some Michael Jackson wasn't on, but I started moonwalking and tripped over a pillow. And the only door that was open was the bathroom door, and I hit my face on the tiles, and one of my teeth cut off halfway, and the other one was hanging on by a nerve. So as you can see, one's a bit longer than the other. So I tried to stay there that night. I had orange juice, water, vodka orange, you name it, alcohol, any kind of drink. I tried to have it, and because of the nerve, I just couldn't. And I rang the wife and go, babe, I've got to come home. So that's the story of Vegas. So we're 1-1. We're
Yeah.
going back in 2025. We've got a couple of athletes, couple of wine experts, whiskey experts. They're all coming on the trip. So I'm offering
You
it.
guys coming too? Do you want to come too? 2025, we'll
We're
go.
gonna
We'll
5
be
years.
back open.
It's a
I've got
best
5
of
years to
3,
ask the
Sam.
wife.
It's a best of 3
Best of 3.
series. He's won all with Vegas at the moment. He needs his wingman with him. So
I need people behind me.
But I'm concerned about Tamworth. Have you? Are you allowed out? Can you go? You can't. You.
Nah, I'm locked.
You just.
I'm locked
You're
in the
just
room
stuck
with
in your
this,
room.
mate. I'm stuck in the room
God.
with this. I've locked the bathroom door, so we're sweet there.
Okay,
Yeah.
but no chip
Yeah.
teeth. Yeah, no moonwalking.
So what do you guys do? Are you allowed out to train? What's happening there?
So the boys are allowed to go out and train the 10 at a time for this week, and and the training park's literally across from the car park. We're staying at the McCure Tamworth, and we're allowed to go out and roam around the hotel because it's just us.
Yeah.
But that's about it, really. We can't go in each other's rooms. We can't really, you hang out in the team room. That's about it, mate. It's pretty boring, to be honest.
Pretty dull. Yeah.
Yeah.
So are you? Even if you could go out, there's not. I don't think there's a lot to do in Tamworth.
No, I don't think there would be, Sam. Yeah.
So are you there for the duration of the season, or are they moving you? What's the story?
So we're here for 2 weeks. 2 weeks from now, maybe 3 weeks, and then I think we're going up to the Central Coast.
Okay.
Yeah, so it might be a bit different on the beach there, but I still don't think we're allowed out because the rugby league have put a whole ban on everyone. Everyone has to go to training, come home, go to the game, come home. So
the world's watching, Sam. The world is watching to see NRL who easily have the most ill-disciplined players. They like to play up a lot. They're always doing something crazy in the media. And the world is watching them try and behave desperately, saying, don't mess anything up. So Blake is in the hornet's nest right now, and very much every night he comes on the show, he tells us things like, I saw a couple of players today, they did some training and then they went straight back to their room and went to bed. So everyone's...
The Warriors are well behaved.
But I did show you guys how you wash your hands properly. That's what we did learn the first day in, which was interesting. Very good technique. That one, both hands. That one, that's a bit weird, but hey, I don't know if that was for washing the hands or anything else while you're locked in your room. But
hey, Blake, do you reckon because the Warriors, have to leave home and away for this whole time, as opposed to other teams who at least are in their country? This could either go two ways, Do you reckon could it really galvanize them and really drive them, or would it be too tough because it's already quite stressful already at time, and when you're away from family and stuff?
Well, speaking to the boys already, I think they've said they've got no other real choice than to bond. And you can see it, like a lot of the time, they've got no one else to hang out with. They can't go back to their families. They've only got FaceTime with their families, So a lot of the time, they're going to have to really be a tight-knit group. So I think it could work in their favour. As you know, even the Broncos and Melbourne get to go home to their families. They fly in game day, go home. Whereas the Warriors don't get that. So I think I think it could help, to be honest. I think, and a thing that they've done in the past is they've had a lot of travel, a lot of flying. Don't have that this year. So that's not an excuse. So they're here, bonded. I reckon it's the season, fellas. Hey?
Yeah.
Can you feel it?
So can I ask Blake, sport and the arts have a more in common now than they usually do, because we depend on audiences, and so do you guys. You need a crowd. How do you think it's going to go without crowds, or do you think there will be crowds? What's it like playing without a crowd? What's it like playing without the Warriors supporters?
Well, it would be difficult. I don't play anymore, but the boys are. They played their first 2 rounds with no fans, so I think they're used to it. the money side of things with the audience, that all comes from the broadcasters and things like that. But to not have the Warriors fans there would be difficult. That's why I think the boys are sort of hoping that New Zealand, is on the right path. Hopefully Australia could get on the right path and have zero COVID cases. And then hopefully we can open the borders, because I think if the borders are open, we might see a game in New Zealand this year. And all New Zealand, I don't know if there'll be fans, but we could see a game in New Zealand. But I think as the season goes on, there's 20 weeks plus 4 weeks of the finals. I think later in the year, fingers crossed, that there will be fans at games and people cheering on their teams. So it's going to be massive for the boys if they do get to go back to New Zealand. And this time we'll only bond them, like I said. I think they've got nothing to do but bond.
Yeah. I mean, it's weird to play for television and not for a crowd, isn't it? Isn't that a strange feeling? Isn't that odd? Isn't it? I don't know.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, I don't know. The boys, you get there, and when you train, you've got enough players that you play against each other anyway in training. So when they get out there and play, I don't know whether it would take away the nervousness, because a lot of the time you don't realize the TV's on you. It's just the fans. So then when you get to a game, it's just you and the opposition, and there's not really people. Like, I've been in games where people were just at me, and for good reasons, missed a tackle or done something like that. So, but
great
without
reasons.
that, great reasons. But without that, I think it takes away the nervousness and sort of the anxiety some players might have, and they might mentally lose the battle before they go out there. But it's always good with home fans.
Are you worried that because there's no crowd noise to drown out the on-field action, that we'll suddenly hear all the sledging that goes on, and the psychological games that happen on the field? All the sly comments that you only read about in books 20 years after they've retired.
I've said this before. I want the referees, because they got mics on. I want them to turn the mics up just a little bit louder, because that'll be awesome. How good would that be? Oh, fuck you, bastard. Oh, yeah, I'll get you after the game. Mate, I'd love to hear it. I reckon it'd even bring more people to the game, as we're the first game up, and you hear sledging and people. It'd be awesome.
There's players mic'd and it playing in speakers all around the stadium.
They're awesome.
Just a reminder, the world is watching rugby league.
Who are the best sledgers in the league?
We've got one with the Warriors, Adam Blair.
Oh, my internet. I'm unstable.
Oh, no, that's good, Sam. We got
the question. Adam Blair's good. Like, he just gets a bit chirpy and gets under your skin, but he's always smiling when he does it. So, like that. If that was happening to me and he was done it to me, it would piss me off and it'd get me off my game. I'd probably be off the game already. But he's one.
Wow. Did he learn his sledging game because he's from up north? Has he always had it from up north, or do you think he learned it at Melbourne or Brisbane?
No, he's still very cheeky. Like I can imagine he would have been up north, mate. So he's been cheeky for many years now. So I think he might have developed it at a young age and just mastered it as he travelled to Melbourne and then over the teams.
Just learned a couple more one-liners on those travels.
It's a useful skill, isn't it?
Oh.
It is if you can rattle your opponent simply by using your words without even needing to be physical. I mean, you're already one up.
We had Jimmy Neesham on the other night, Sam, and he said he came out as a batter on day 5, and Mitchell Stark came out and bowled one down at him and goes, "Oh, it's a bit early to bring the night watchman on." And what did he say? He said, "It's day 5, you idiot."
It's day 5.
Yeah.
There isn't a night watchman.
Great.
I love that.
I mean, that's a whole new level of sport that we don't get to see in professionalism because the crowd drowns it out. But it could be a selling point. You know what I mean? It could be the new selling point.
Yeah. What's the classic acting sledge? Is it you're right today? You just look like you got a cold or something. Is that what you do at the start?
The real classic sledge always happens after you've seen something, like especially if your mate's been in a play or something or a film,
Yeah.
and like say they've gone to see a play, and like the first thing you say to them is like, "Oh, the lights were mean."
Yeah. Yeah. Or
Yeah.
the best one is you go back at the end of the play and you say, "You did it again."
It's a great one. How about you? Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
All right,
And-
team. I'm gonna
and
have to.
because-
Oh, sorry. You go, Oscar. You go.
No, because actors are so sensitive, it just messes them up for life.
Oh yeah.
It does, it just
Torments
goes
them,
away.
rolling over in their beds
Yeah.
at night.
Yeah.
Hey guys, I have to call full time. See what I did there, Sam? Sporting reference. Call
very
full
good
time
sporting
on the vlog. Thank you guys so much for your time.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Very enjoyable having you on and hearing all your stories. Just quickly before we go, Ricardo Ball says to you, Blake, best sledge you ever took in rugby league during your career. Did anyone say something particularly that got under your skin, Blake, when you were playing?
Or just
I think it was maybe my 5th year, and one of the younger fellas said, "Oh, are you still playing first grade? I thought you'd be retired by now." So that sort of, you know, it wasn't too funny,
Where's
but when
the
it was happening
respect
at
on
the
your
game,
name?
I
I
just
know.
want hits.
Oh, I don't know, man. I copped a lot. Yeah.
Oh, man.
I copped a lot. Hey, but like we spoke on here, I stole a living for 12 years and set my family up. So
There you go.
That's the one. All about setting the whole up. Hey, thank
And
you
you
so
still
much,
got your
guys.
teeth.
That's right. Well, half of it.
Yep,
half of
still
half
got
one, and the other one's still in there.
95% of his teeth.
I used to have a good smile, mate. It's gone now.
All right, we'll drop you guys a line when we're headed to Vegas, but thank you again for your time. Very enjoyable,
2025 crew.
Thanks,
Yeah.
guys.
and enjoy your the
Thank
rest of your
you.
weekend.
Thanks,
Cheers.
guys.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
fellas.
Cheers, fellas. See you later. There we
Yeah,
go.
see ya.
That's Friday night.
Let's go.